Hello YouTube! Welcome to another video from Folk Friend, your one-stop shop for Celtic backing guitar tutorials. In today's video I've got a special guest on the show. We've got Tiffany Schaefer in celebration of St. Patrick's Day from Tiffany Schaefer Harp and Song. Thank you very much, Tiffany, for coming on Folk Friend today.
Thanks for having me.
What we're going to do is I've recorded a tune called Sean Ryan's, which is arranged in fingerstyle format in my collection of 10 Irish tunes for fingerstyle guitar in standard tuning. I really like this tune. It was written by Sean Ryan. I tell a lie, the tune's actually called the Castle Jig, isn't it? But it's written by Sean Ryan, hence why I've always called it Sean Ryan's.
I think I've heard it called both, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny as well because Sean Ryan that wrote the tune was a famous whistle player a long time ago. But Sean Ryan wrote the tune about Leap Castle in Ireland, and the castle is now owned by another Sean Ryan who's kind of turned it into a museum, and he's also a whistle player. Which I discovered when I tried to Google the original Sean Ryan. I kept getting the new one, so I thought that was quite interesting. So Tiffany, when you're starting to look at a tune, how do you start to think about what would be best to accompany it with on the harp?
So depending on whether I'm at a session or whether I'm at home, it's probably mostly the same. I would listen for the bass first and try and pick out the bass notes. If I'm in a crowd, very quietly sort of making sure I got it. And then to get at least the three main chords where the changes are. And then maybe later I'll think about what inversions and substitutions I can do. So at least to try and get like the three chords down, the three main ones. And we were talking on the video on my channel how in a major tune that's always 1, 4, and 5. And there's a great formula that has in that video that you can go check out how you find what goes where. But yeah, I would listen for the bass notes, try and get the three main chords, and then once I've got that, I might also look for where I can walk up and down in the bass. I like to do that a lot on the harp. So if I was doing the other tune, Far From Home, let's see. And kind of do something like that. It's easy to pick out and find. Or if you've got a long chord where you're on one for a long time, perhaps just start bringing it up a third so that I have a third on the bottom, but I'm still on the that same chord.
For this tune, which is in the key of A Aeolian, then how would you apply that to this?
So if I'm in a minor key and I know this one is A, its bass is A minor, so I will have a lot of A minors, and I will probably also have a lot of chord 1s, and I'll probably also have a lot of chord 7s, which is G in this case, and chord 5, which is E. So if I listen to the tune, try and put those in where they might go. So once I have at least the three main chords, I can start filling in something with my right hand, because it's great on the harp because you have so many things you can do. You can basically be a double bass. You can play the bass notes. I can have a whole other octave up here I can play around in. I can do patterns in my right hand, counter melodies, all that kind of stuff. But I will probably start with, since this is a jig, finding some kind of pattern. And then bringing in those three different chords and then try playing it that way.
Just for guitarists out there, if you want to kind of replicate this, if you were taking the same pattern of chords that Tiffany's just played, if you're breaking up a chord, you can always those kinds of things, just breaking up a chord is a nice way to get a sort of atmospheric version. You don't always have to be strumming along on the guitar. You can sort of break up a chord and it'll give you something nice. Just think about trying to get one consistent rhythmic pattern for your right hand so that you're not always having to focus on what your right hand's doing.
I think for some reason it maybe lends itself more to minor tunes. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, maybe. They've got more depth to them, haven't they? I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, you don't have to be strumming all the time. I think we might approach it that way on the harp too, but really you don't have to fill every second with sound. You can kind of just be the undercurrent, because that's what you're doing anyway. You're making the melody shine, right? It's really when you're a backer, you're not center stage. So something to keep in mind, I think.
Absolutely.
And I think you probably do this on the guitar too sometimes, have the equivalent of just sort of a slap kind of bass and make a little noise with the strings. Etc. So kind of bring in that little percussive thing.
Really nice.
That's nice on the I always find this easier on major tunes, but the walking down, everyone I know calls this, or says they learned this from Michael Rooney, and I don't have a name for it. I just think of it as the Michael Rooney thing, who plays harp as well, but yeah. Doing the walk downs, but you sort of stop your string partway through and give it a little percussive spinning sort of sound. I guess you'd call it percussive damping, but yeah, I just call it the Michael Rooney thing. So that's another nice thing to add in. Just the little bits of color you can do that aren't melodic, but add little things in.
Often I think the most important rhythmic element of guitar playing a lot of the time is which ones you stop or which ones you mute. Like the silences are more of the rhythm than the bits you hit in sometimes.
Yeah, silence is important too, definitely. So I'd find some patterns that go with the time signature, depending if I was playing a reel or a jig or whatnot. If I was playing a reel, it'd probably be more like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and that's one of them. Or breaking it up a little more, because that gets old sometimes, the boom chuck. If I'm doing a reel, sometimes I like to use that silence like we were talking about, and also bring in some sort of sus chords. That little clashing bit that we like so much. Let's see. And I'm bringing some more rhythmic stuff, yeah.
So on a guitar, the equivalent of that for A minor, which would go with this tune, would be to play your A minor chord with its like an A minor sus2, so it's got a B in it instead of your third note there. So it's an A minor shape, but without that finger. And then put it on. And then for G, it was something like that. So for a G, if you play it like that, you've got a G sus2, and then you change it to the third there. Or you can take those two fingers off and you've got normal G. Like that. But I think it sounds nicer like something like that.
So I would decide on a pattern probably the first time through and go through that, and then something else to do if I get bored with that or I want to change things up is I might even bring in like a counter melody in the right hand. So for Castle Jig, what I ended up doing in the third time through was This is just something that goes over top of the melody. And then also, like we said, think about substitutions we can do. So I like to bring in a D sometimes. And whether that's going to be a G with a D in the bass or a D minor, kind of depends on the spot in the tune for this one. But usually I think I had it as a G with a D in the bass.
Okay.
But Yeah, so I started playing with inversions like starting with A, and then G with D in the bass, and then A minor with E in the bass, because I'm right next door to that D where I just was. So that's a nice little walk up.
So you're using the same chord progression: A minor, G, A
Yep.
minor, E minor, but you've changed the bass notes so that you've inverted the other chords so that the bass line is more interesting. Boom, da, dong. I can't sing
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah, I guess yeah, it gives it a different sound to it, definitely. Let's see, I think I did, and then back to E minor, but with a G in the bass, so it's also kind of close.
that's cool.
Yeah, and then I ended up doing G to A, but with a little flourish in the right hand.
Lovely.
Lots of people call that a butterfly in the harp world because it sort of looks like a butterfly. You got your body in the middle that you're not touching, and the two wings on either side.
Oh, that's cool. If you have a chord progression like A minor, G, A minor, E minor, where it's kind of going, so it's kind of going down to start with, uh, but then like what Tiffany's done there is made a sort of contrary motion to that, so it's going dum 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 boom, and at the bottom it's going boom da dum boom, so it's kind of jumping a huge way down and then coming up, and the two kind of offset each other nicely. And that thing of putting a chord in its second inversion so that the fifth is at the bottom of it, it kind of sounds medieval in a way. Chords with fifths at the bottom, to me, they sound obviously on a harp they sound super medieval, but they
Oh yeah, yeah. I
it's,
never thought of it that way. Yeah.
it's an interesting one for guitarists anyway, especially if you're playing chords that are up here somewhere. You know, if you're using bar chords, like an A minor bar chord, if you take that finger off, you've got it inverted so that its fifth E is at the bottom, which gives it a very kind of yeah, very Knights in Castles kind of feel to it.
It also sounds nice sometimes just to leave the third out altogether and just do fifths.
Yeah,
For some reason, that works really well in Celtic tunes. Yeah.
yeah, no, definitely for guitarists as well. The power chord shape is useful because you've got like an E power chord is just roots and fifths.
Okay.
That's popular choice.
Yeah. Let's see, but yeah, we talk about substitutions a little bit. So instead of the A minor, I was listening to other versions and liked putting an F in place of an A minor for part of it. I like to put it in the B part later because you're already used to that A minor, and then it makes your ears perk up. So going from, and then suddenly you have. I ended up walking back down actually in the B part. Etc. Yeah.
Yeah,
So bringing in that nice little extra chord, and then like we said, the D minors or the G's with D in the bass also has a nice. Let me try it with the tune here. D E A. E minor. D E A. It just fits nice. And then maybe an F. Etc.
it sounds so nice when you start a section on chord six as well, and it works. It works in major keys as well, of course. But it's in a major key if you start on on chord 6, you're just making a dark version of it. But in a minor key, if you start a section on chord 6, you're making like a, I don't know, I haven't even got a name for that.
Yeah.
It sounds
It's
completely.
major, so you want to think it's hopeful, but it doesn't really sound happy or hopeful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It sounds
I
like remembering something that,
yeah
like it's remembering a lost love. It's like that.
yeah. Or like you're turning a corner in this maze you're in or something. Oh,
Yeah,
there's something new. Yeah, something different.
yeah.
Definitely. Um, so yeah, I do. That's basically what I would go through, and then I might write down in a language that only makes sense to me what exactly I'm doing where.
Yeah.
um, and if I'm smart, I actually notate it. But who does that? I might also bring in some higher stuff, like we were talking about before. So on the video with you, I did less chord changes, but I did more flowy stuff up here, like or etc.
Hmm.
Um,
One thing I think is really interesting about your arrangement on the video is the placement of your bass notes.
oh really?
They're not always on the starts of the bars. Sometimes you've syncopated them, and it makes the rhythm really sort of chug along nicely. Like it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're not doing like 2 foot
Yeah,
taps on each, like I always put on the simple chords on my videos. You're putting every second chord. You're kind of putting a bit late, and it's great. It really makes a nice funky rhythm. So that's another thing.
yeah. That's
Like,
kind of just where I felt it. Well, that's half the battle, right? Just listening to stuff and seeing where it feels good. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Um,
I talk in a lot of my videos as well about changing chords early. Like I might do da 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 da. But you've done the opposite. You've changed chords late, which gives it that really nice. I think what this is testament to is the fact that I drink too much coffee and I'm too impatient. And you're obviously a more relaxed musician. That's probably what it is.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna have to play with doing chords early now. That's a good thing to
Mm.
play around with. Yeah.
I'll have to do a
Um,
video about playing them late because I don't think I've ever done.
yeah. Yeah, I've never. I guess they just naturally sound like they should come late to me. That's interesting. We were talking too earlier before we were recording a bit about this tune because it's one of those unusual tunes that has an F sharp sometimes and not other times.
Ah, yeah, the dreaded Dolian Aeolian mode. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because normally when I encounter that, I in tunes, I think sometimes there's an F sharp in the melody, but it still sounds good with an F natural in the bass, like in a walk down sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really interesting tune because it's like in the A part. I don't think there's only a sixth right at the end of the A part. Da 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 dum ba da dum in the last bar, or the last bar but one.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only place there's a sixth. So really, you could treat the A part as if it's either, and that's a common thing in Irish tunes as well. Is that you don't find the sixth note very much in the melody because it's quite a sort of unstable sounding note. So often it's unclear whether they're Dorian or Aeolian. And this one, it's very unclear because it's actually got both. Because in the B part later on,
Hmm.
when it's running up again, it
Yeah.
it changes. So yeah, I would say if you're a guitarist and you're thinking about, or a harp player and you're thinking about which chords go with it, you've got two sets of options really. You've got the options as if you were in the Dorian mode, or the options as if you were in the Aeolian mode. Because if you were in a Aeolian, you'd have the equivalent chords to C major. So your chord 4 in A Aeolian would be a D minor, and your chord 6 in A Aeolian would be an F sharp. Sorry, it would be an F natural, F major. And if you wanted a more optimistic Dorian feel, you'd do it with a D major, um, and an F sharp diminished, or like the first inversion of a D chord is the way to avoid that. So D with a thumb on the guitar. So really, you've got like 4 chords that you could kind of use interchangeably there. If you wanted it to be more optimistic, you'd pick the chords from the Dorian mode, and if you wanted it to be less so, you might pick the chords from the Aeolian mode. Or if you
Yeah.
were feeling jazzy, you might just use a combination of the two.
I ended up doing the first time I was going through this. I ended up using a F sharp. I didn't do it in the video later, but what I did was A, B, C, D, E, A, which I kept. But then sometimes I would add a third on top with an F sharp. And it seemed to go. That walk up from the A, B, C, D, E really ended up just being 2 chords. I decided if I was playing full chords there, I would play A minor, G, A minor, G, A. But because I've swapped out the bottom notes, or sort of did an inversion without the rest of the notes, it ends up being that walk up. So it was an A with an A in the bass, and then it was a G with a B in the bass, then it was a A minor with a C in the bass, and then a G with a D in the bass, and then finally A minor with E in the bass, and back to A minor. So that's what it ended up being.
That was really cool.
But it sounds a lot better than just A, G, A, G, A, G.
Yeah, so on a guitar you could kind of do it. You'd have A minor, then G. You'd invert your G chord so that the root note's gone and you've got B at the bottom of it. And then an A minor with a C in the root is basically a C chord, so I'm just going to play C. And then you do a G inverted again, so that now it's got D at the bottom of it, so your root note's the D string. So your root notes, and the chord G, A minor, G over B, C, and G chord again, but now the lowest note in it's D.
That's interesting because I couldn't find anywhere in this piece for a C. I know we had we've got our 3 minorish chords, right? But I brought in the F, right, and we brought in the F major and the G major, but I haven't tried an actual C there. Maybe that's where it would work.
You could put C in place of any of the A minors theoretically, but it might be, it's a very bright substitution, that, and you kind of this tune's quite dark and moody, isn't it? I think that's why it's so good.
Right.
So
I don't think it would quite fit. But yeah, if people are just starting this, harpists or whatever, and trying it at home, I say find a tune recording. Like, you can find so many on YouTube.
you can find a pack of 20 of them as well, which are available on folkfriend.co.uk. And
there you go. I think you had some samples of those on your YouTube channel.
yeah, there's 6 now available that you can just play along with for free, and they show the chords on the screen. And then if you get the play along pack, you actually get 20 of them, but they've got a guide to why the chords work as well. So they kind of tell you about all the music theory side of it.
Yeah, great.
They've all got like 3 different potential versions of the chords as well. So simple ones, and then substitutions, and then a jazzy version with like all the majors and minors and 6/9s and 13s and all the rest of it.
Great. Yeah. I put those. I put that playlist on my Facebook group, so they can play
Cool.
with it too.
Thanks.
Yeah, Facebook group, Mastering Celtic Music, if anyone wants to join on Facebook. All trad instrumentalists welcome, not just harps.
I'll put the box down below.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, and there, I mean, there's so many. You can find sessions on YouTube. You can find, people teaching tunes, no matter what instrument you play, right? I think maybe sometimes harpists, especially, might get stuck looking for a harp tutorial, but you could learn from a fiddle tutorial. You could learn from a guitar tutorial. Whatever. You can learn as long as you've got your ears. Uh, Shameless plug too. I also teach a harp arrangement on my Patreon page every month. But I put the melody part I leave up as a sample, and those are free on YouTube. So if anyone wants to learn a melody from a harpist, you can do that. It's called Tune Tutor.
Go check it out again. Box down below. There's a link there for that.
But I think that's pretty much all I had to say. People kind of, sessions can be kind of intimidating, but I say just jump in, go slow, listen for a while. There's so much fun. There's so much fun.
Thank you very much again for coming on the show. Have you got any gigs or anything like that coming up, or live streamings, or anything you want to plug while we're here?
Yeah, I have one coming a week from when this comes out, a week from today. It'll be the 20th of March. I'm doing a Zoom concert with two harpist friends, Stephanie Clausen and Hannah Flowers, and we're going to do a St. Patrick's Day concert. And then I've got actually another one coming on the 14th, which will be free to watch on the Hudson Library Facebook page, but also YouTube. But all of that is going to be on my website, tiffanyharpandsong.com, and is all spelled out, A-N-D. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for chatting to us, and we'll run the clip now. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you're out there watching. Hit the little like button as well if you've enjoyed this clip, and go and check out Tiffany's channel as well. There's loads of great tutorials and really nice songs and all sorts of good stuff on there. That's linked down below.
Thanks, Nai. It's been great.